we've delved into Darth Vader's relationships with clones under his command recently on this channel, having analysed both individual cases and the impact it had on the Sith Lord's psyche. This video will be along a similar vein, but with a catch. In this video, we will be documenting all of Darth Vader's notable relationships with clone troopers from the end of the Clone Wars until his death above Endor.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
It should be noted that we're only going to be counting veterans of the Clone Wars in this, which narrows the pool down quite a bit. At first, Vader's interactions with such clones were pretty much innumerable, considering that clones comprised the majority of the Stormtrooper Corps for years after the fall of the Republic. But from the very end of the Clone Wars, the Kamino and Fett clones with which he was familiar with began to be phased out, starting with the integration of Spartai Fett clones and soon after with the introduction of other clone lines or organic recruits. As a result of this and the accelerated aging experienced by Kaminoan clones, Clone Wars veterans quickly became a rarity, though they hadn't disappeared entirely by the time of Vader's death. As we said earlier, at first, Vader's interactions with clones were pretty commonplace. Most clones were forced to remain as the core of the new Imperial military for the first 2 years of the Imperial reign due to the ongoing wars against the Separatist holdouts, and it was only after this that veterans began to retire en masse. For this reason, we'll only be discussing major relationships for the period between 19 and 17 BBY. We'll also be excluding former clone pilot Contrail, as we've already done a full video on him. The clones with which Vader was most familiar with were the commanders of the 501st Legion, which during the Jedi Purge were all veterans of the Clone Wars. Vader bonded the most closely with these clones and in multiple cases expressed sorrow at their deaths. The most notable case of this was Commander Appo. Otherwise known as the most underrated badass in the clone army, CC-1119 was so skilled in commanding the early stages of the Jedi Purge that he earned the respect of Darth Vader, with whom he obviously worked closely. Appo was the commander of the 501st Legion by the end of the Clone Wars, having replaced Captain Rex in command of the unit, and it was he that, alongside the newly anointed Darth Vader, who led the 501st in their march on the Jedi Temple. Appo was the mastermind behind Operation Nightfall. While Vader led troops in going around and killing Jedi, Appo was responsible for all the details, as well as for overseeing temple security after his primary mission had been completed. He personally was responsible for the deaths of multiple Jedi and was indirectly responsible for many more, and he expressed a level of ruthless efficiency that impressed Vader greatly. He was wounded by Zet Jukasa during the mission but survived and came to work closely with the Dark Lord of the Sith in the coming months. As commander of the 501st Legion and second in command to Darth Vader, Appo was responsible for coordinating Imperial efforts to wipe out survivors of Order 66, a role in which Vader trusted his judgment to a surprising degree. With that being said, Vader wasn't as close with Appo as he had been with Rex, as evidenced in his decision to go alone to Kessel to confront a group of Jedi survivors. Fortunately for him, Appo followed him anyway, and actually saved Vader's life with his timely arrival. The last 3 Jedi survivors were killed by Appo and his men, and Vader only respected him more after that. Appo proceeded to accompany Vader on purge missions to New Plimpto and Mokana, and on the latter mission, Vader trusted him both with the handling of lightsaber trophies and the pursuit of traitorous clone commandos. Appo proved his worth further by catching onto the plan of a group of Jedi survivors that were trying to slip off-world. Appo spearheaded the pursuit of the Jedi and was so close to catching them that the Jedi were forced to hire decoys to break the blockade of Mokana themselves. Appo's relationship with Vader only came to an end with his death during the opening stages of the Imperial subjugation of Kashyyyk. Appo commanded the 501st's opening of the invasion, a difficult task that Vader fully trusted him to handle. As is to be expected of Commander Appo, he handled it perfectly, securing a beachhead on Kashyyyk from which the Empire eventually subjugated the planet entirely. The only miscalculation Appo made was downplaying the role of the Jedi in his theater of the assault, which ultimately resulted in his death at the hands of Rowan Shrine. Appo's death dismayed Vader, who proceeded to kill Shrine and avenge him. Vader was less close with other commanders of the 501st Legion like Commander Bo and Commander Vil. He respected these commanders well enough, but he didn't exactly care for them as he had cared for Apo. Indeed, Vader was directly responsible for Commander Vill's death, having killed him as a precaution after asking if he was programmed with a contingency order to be used against him. There was a subsequent commander with whom Vader had a close relationship, however, Commander Vakov. Commander Vakov had presumably been a clone commando, considering that he appears to have worn the Khatan-class armor used by members of that clone breed. He served as the commander of the 501st during a mission on Atoa, where he carried out Vader's orders with competence and respect. Vader, clearly, had a level of respect for him as well, entrusting him completely with several important components of the mission. Vakov was only undone by treason, which not even Vader expected, treason that resulted in his death. While Vader didn't openly mourn Vakov as he had mourned Apo, he was nonetheless clearly displeased, to say the least. There were other clones with whom Vader interacted, though ones that weren't members of the 501st Legion. Aside from the aforementioned Contrail, we also have Commander Bly, a well-known Clone Wars veteran that worked with Vader closely during a mission as part of the Jedi Purge. Vader was familiar with Bly, having briefly worked with him in the Clone Wars and respected him enough to give him the opportunity to get some personal closure, at least in a bit of a twisted way. As we all know, Bly executed Aayla Secura, his Jedi General on Felucia, but what some might not have known is that there were other Jedi on Felucia too. The Padawan Zonda was killed by Bly and his men, but Zonda's death had allowed fellow Padawans Ekria and Drake Logan to escape. Vader knew of this, and when a manhunt for the Padawans began, he put Bly in charge of it as a means to eliminate that incomplete mission from his record. For Vader, this was a sign of respect, one which Bly greatly appreciated. Bly led Vader's men in tracking down the rogue Jedi, and his experience with them made this easier, allowing Vader himself to confront them both on Tepasi. There, Bly shot Ekria, and though Logan took him out of the fight after this, when he awoke, he had a clear shot at the Padawan who was battling Vader at the time. Bly took the shot, allowing Vader to finish Logan off. Vader respected Bly for his skill in handling this mission, which resulted in the removal of one incomplete mission from the commander's record. Our last case of a clone encounter with Vader is perhaps the most interesting. The clone in question is Hawk Malsum, who had been left for dead on a remote planet during the Clone Wars. Malsum sat out the rest of the war as a farmer until 2 years after his abandonment, he began to hear stories about Darth Vader. Captivated by tales of the Darth Lord, Malsum set off to join his army, and after proving himself in battle, he was actually successful and was admitted into the 501st Legion. Under Vader's command, he participated in the reconquest of the Rim in 2 battles on the planet Ostor. The first attack was a disaster, and for the second attack, he was personally sent alongside Vader into battle. He was captured, but he was spared because the holdout's leader was a rogue clone himself. Malcolm killed his former brother and sabotaged his force's shield generator, allowing the Empire to win the day and raise the city in which the cell had been hiding. However, when Vader began slaughtering innocents, Malsum actually deserted again, for good this time. It is unknown what became of him. So, those were our most notable stories of the Clone Wars veterans that encountered Vader, and I know these were all subtle signs of respect or appreciation, but in our opinion, any hint of these positive traits toward anybody with a heartbeat, in Vader's case, was a really good thing. So we decided to make a video on it, and we found it very interesting because clones are pretty much Vader's only connection to the past. So it just kind of combines both the sequels and the prequels and just makes for a really interesting interaction. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I want you to let me know if I missed anything in his interactions with other clones, because I mean, I'm sure they'd be just as interesting. So make sure you leave all that in the comments section below. And just before you go, guys, if you do want to help support me, the channel, please do check out our Patreon. And I want to give a big thank you to all my current patrons. Your guys' help is so appreciated. We've just been trying to up the quality and soon quantity of the videos on this channel. So guys, thank you so much. And if you are considered donating, please do check out the link in the description below. And as for all the other links in the description below, if you want to join our wider Geetsly's community on our gaming network or our Discord to chat with other Star Wars fans, make sure you do that as well. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.